They say danger often wears the face of love. In the quiet compound of Baba Themba, a single moment shattered trust forever, when Nolwazi struck the bowl from Zinhle's trembling hands just as she was about to eat. Gasps filled the air. MaDlamini's smile froze. What lay in that meal was not nourishment, but death. If this story grips your heart, stay with us and tell us where you're watching from. In every village, there is a home that looks peaceful from the outside, yet carries storms within its walls. In the heart of Kwandlovu village stood the compound of Baba Themba, a man known for his strength and quiet dignity. His home was built of red earth and thatched roofs, surrounded by mango trees that whispered in the wind. To strangers, it was a place of warmth, but to those who lived inside, it was a place where love and envy sat at the same table. Baba Themba had not always lived with such tension. Years ago, before sorrow found him, his first wife had filled the compound with laughter. She bore him 2 daughters, Nolwazi and Zinhle, before illness took her away like a thief in the night. From that day, a silence settled over the home. Nolwazi the elder grew into a girl of sharp eyes and careful words. She was not the loudest in the room, but she saw what others missed. Zinhle the younger was the light of the compound. Her laughter rang like bells, and her kindness drew people to her, like water draws the thirsty. Even the elders would say, that child carries the spirit of her mother. But light, as the elders say, often casts the longest shadow. When Baba Themba remarried, he chose a woman named MaDlamini. She arrived with grace, her voice soft, her smile practiced. At first, she seemed like a blessing. She cooked, she cleaned, she called the girls my daughters. And for a while, the compound believed peace had returned. But peace when forced does not last. At the market, people would greet Zinhle with admiration. Ah, Baba, Themba's daughter, they would say. She grows more beautiful each day. She will bring great honor to her father. MaDlamini would stand nearby her smile, thin her eyes watching. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in gold, MaDlamini spoke softly while grinding spices. Zinhle, she called her tone sweet as honeycomb, I have prepared something special for you. Zinhle beamed. Thank you, Mama. You are always so kind. Nolwazi, sitting nearby, paused. Her eyes flickered not at the words, but at the way MaDlamini's hand tightened slightly around the grinding stone. Later that night, Nolwazi spoke in a hushed voice. Zinhle, do you ever feel something is not right? Zinhle frowned gently. What do you mean, sister? Our stepmother. She treats you differently, too differently. Zinhle laughed softly. You worry too much. She loves us. Nolwazi did not smile. Love does not hide behind eyes that do not match the mouth. Zinhle shook her head. You see shadows where there is light. But Nolwazi had lived long enough to know, sometimes the brightest smiles hide the darkest intentions. Days passed, and the pattern grew clearer. MaDlamini gave Zinhle special meals, special attention, special praise. To others it looked like affection, but to Nolwazi it felt like something else, something heavy, something wrong. And each time Zinhle ate from her hand, Nolwazi felt a tightening in her chest she could not explain. In the quiet of the night, while the village slept and the crickets sang, Nolwazi lay awake, staring into the darkness. They say she whispered to herself that the snake does not hiss before it strikes. And deep within her heart, a fear began to grow that danger had already entered their home and was waiting patiently for the right moment. They say the eyes that watch in silence often see what noise tries to hide. As the days stretched into weeks, Nolwazi's unease did not fade, it deepened. What once felt like a shadow at the edge of her thoughts now stood clearly before her like a figure in the mist, slowly revealing its face. MaDlamini's kindness towards Zinhle had grown too deliberate, too precise. Every morning she would call only Zinhle into the kitchen. Come, my child, she would say, her voice wrapped in warmth. I have made something just for you." Zinhle would go eagerly, her heart open, her trust unquestioning. But Nolwazi began to notice something strange. The meals were never shared. The bowls were always different. And sometimes, just sometimes, there was a smell. Faint, bitter, like crushed leaves left too long in the sun. One afternoon, Nolwazi stood by the doorway, pretending to sweep while her eyes remained fixed on the kitchen. She watched as MaDlamini stirred a small pot, her movements slow and careful. Then, when she thought no one was looking, MaDlamini reached into a small cloth bundle hidden beneath the shelf. From it, she took a pinch of dark powder and dropped it into the pot. Nolwazi's breath caught. "What was that?" she whispered to herself. Before she could step forward, MaDlamini turned sharply. Their eyes met. For a moment, time stood still. Then MaDlamini smiled. "Nolwazi," she said smoothly, "why do you stand there like a ghost? Come help me serve your sister." Nolwazi forced a nod, but her heart pounded like a drum in a storm. That evening, she sat beside Zinhle, under the old baobab tree, where they used to play as children. "Sister Nolwazi," began quietly, "have you noticed anything strange about the food Mama gives you?" Zinhle tilted her head. "Strange, no. It is always delicious. Does it ever smell bitter?" Zinhle laughed softly. "You imagine too much. Maybe your nose is jealous because she does not cook for you the same way." Nolwazi's voice grew firmer. "Zinhle, listen to me. Not everything that is given with a smile is meant with love." Zinhle's smile faded slightly. "Why do you speak like this? She has cared for us. Baba trusts her." "And that," Nolwazi said, her eyes darkening, "is what worries me." But Zinhle shook her head. "You see danger where there is none. Please, sister, do not let suspicion poison your heart." Nolwazi fell silent. For the first time, she realized something more dangerous than MaDlamini's actions, Zinhle's trust. That night, Nolwazi made a decision. When the moon rose high and the compound fell into sleep, she wrapped a cloth around her shoulders and stepped quietly into the darkness. From the shadows she watched. MaDlamini emerged from the house, moving carefully, looking over her shoulder before slipping past the gate. Nolwazi followed. The path led away from the village into the forest, where the air grew thick and the trees whispered secrets to those who dared to listen. They walked until the sounds of the village disappeared. Then, in a clearing lit by flickering firelights, Nolwazi saw it. A shrine, bones hung from branches. Calabashes lined the ground. The scent of burnt herbs filled the air. And there, seated beside a small fire, was an old woman, Gogo Nandi, the healer many feared, but few spoke of openly. MaDlamini knelt before her. "My time is running out," MaDlamini said, her voice no longer sweet, but sharp and desperate. "The girl grows more loved each day. Soon, everything will belong to her." Gogo Nandi stirred the fire slowly. "Then you must act before love becomes power." Nolwazi's heart pounded so loudly, she feared they would hear it. "What must I do?" MaDlamini asked. The old woman leaned forward, her eyes glinting in the firelight. "There are herbs that do not kill at once," she said. "They weaken, they silence. They take life slowly like a shadow stealing the sun." Nolwazi's breath stopped. "And no one will suspect," MaDlamini whispered. Gogo Nandi smiled faintly. "Not if the hand that feeds is trusted." In that moment, the truth struck Nolwazi like lightning. This was no fear born of imagination. It was real, and it was already in motion, hidden behind kindness, waiting in the next meal, creeping closer to her sister with every passing day. They say when truth reveals itself, it does not whisper, it strikes like thunder in a clear sky. Nolwazi did not remember how her feet carried her back from the forest that night. The world around her felt distant, as though she had stepped into a different life, one where every smile now held a hidden blade. The image burned in her mind, MaDlamini, kneeling before Gogo Nandi, asking how to slowly take a life. Zinhle's life. That night, Nolwazi did not sleep. She sat by the doorway of their hut, watching the moon drift across the sky, her thoughts racing like wild horses. Every memory replayed itself with new meaning. The special meals, the careful smiles, the way MaDlamini watched Zinhle eat. It has already begun, Nolwazi whispered, her voice trembling. By morning, her fear had turned into something sharper: resolve. But resolve alone was not enough. Who would believe her Baba Themba trusted MaDlamini? The villagers respected her. And Zinhle loved her. Without proof, Nolwazi's words would sound like jealousy, like madness. Still, she could not remain silent. Later that day, as MaDlamini prepared food in the kitchen, Nolwazi stepped inside. The air smelled of herbs and smoke, thick and heavy. MaDlamini glanced up, her expression calm. "Ah, Nolwazi, you come early today." Nolwazi's voice was steady, though her heart pounded. "I could not sleep last night." MaDlamini smiled faintly. A restless mind often carries unnecessary burdens. Nolwazi stepped closer, her eyes searching. Or perhaps it carries truths others refuse to see. For a brief moment, something flickered across MaDlamini's face, something cold, but it vanished as quickly as it came. "You speak in riddles," MaDlamini said lightly. "Careful, child. Too many thoughts can poison a young mind." Nolwazi's gaze hardened. "And what of poison that enters through the mouth?" Silence. The fire crackled between them. MaDlamini slowly set down the spoon in her hand. "Be very careful, Nolwazi," she said softly, her voice now stripped of warmth. "Words once spoken cannot be taken back." Nolwazi held her ground. "And actions once done cannot be hidden forever." For a moment, the two stood facing each other, not as mother and daughter, but as enemies bound by a dangerous secret. Then MaDlamini leaned closer, her voice low enough that only Nolwazi could hear. "You are a clever girl," she murmured, "but clever girls must learn when to stay silent." A chill ran through Nolwazi's spine. "If you love your sister," MaDlamini continued, "you will not interfere with what you do not understand." Nolwazi's fists clenched. "I understand enough." MaDlamini straightened her smile, returning like a mask. "Then understand this: sometimes what must be done is done for the good of the household." Nolwazi stared at her in disbelief. "Killing her is for the good of the household." MaDlamini's eyes darkened, but she said nothing more. Instead, she turned back to the pot, stirring it slowly, as if the conversation had never happened. That silence spoke louder than any confession. Nolwazi stepped back, her breath shallow. There would be no reasoning with her, no mercy. From that moment, Nolwazi knew this was no longer suspicion. It was a race against time, and she was already losing. Over the next few days, MaDlamini's behavior changed in a way that chilled Nolwazi even more. She became gentler, kinder, more attentive than ever. "Zinhle, my child," she would say, "you must eat well. You are growing into a fine young woman." Zinhle would smile, unaware of the danger, sitting quietly in her bowl. Each time Zinhle ate, Nolwazi felt her chest tighten, her breath catch. Was it already in the food? Was the poison already working? But Zinhle showed no signs of illness, only the same bright smile, the same trusting heart that made it worse. Because Nolwazi knew what MaDlamini had said, it does not kill at once. The plan was unfolding slowly, like a shadow stretching at sunset. And Nolwazi had no proof, no ally, no time. Standing alone in the quiet of the compound, Nolwazi whispered to herself, "They say the one who sees danger and does nothing becomes part of it." Her eyes hardened. "I will not be part of it." Whatever it took, even if no one believed her, even if the whole village turned against her, she would stop it before the next meal was served. They say the moment of truth does not arrive with warning, it comes like a storm breaking over a calm sky. The day began like any other in Kwandlovu village, but something in the air felt different. The wind moved more slowly, the birds were quieter, and even the sun seemed to watch from above with a knowing gaze. Inside the compound, MaDlamini was already at work. Today, she announced with unusual brightness, "We celebrate Zinhle." Zinhle's eyes lit up. Celebrate me, for what? Mama MaDlamini smiled, her voice smooth as silk. Must there always be a reason to honor a good daughter, Baba? Themba nodded approvingly. Your stepmother speaks well. We have not celebrated in a long time. But Nolwazi, standing at the edge of the courtyard, felt her stomach twist. A celebration, no. This was something else. By midday, the compound had come alive. Neighbors' gathered laughter filled the air, and the scent of cooking drifted through the space. Pots simmered over, open fires, and colorful fabrics danced in the breeze. To everyone else, it was a day of joy. To Nolwazi, it felt like a carefully prepared stage for something terrible. She kept her eyes fixed on MaDlamini. Every movement, every glance, every gesture. MaDlamini moved gracefully among the guests, greeting them laughing softly, her face glowing with warmth. But Nolwazi saw through it now, the way her eyes lingered just a second too long on Zinhle, the way her hands were too precise when handling a particular pot. Then it happened. MaDlamini carried out a small bowl decorated different from the others. Nolwazi, she called sweetly, help me bring this to your sister. Nolwazi stepped forward slowly. As she approached, a faint smell reached her nose, bitter sharp, hidden beneath the spices. Her heart pounded. This was it. She took the bowl, her hand steady, despite the storm inside her. Up close, she saw it clearly, a strange dark tint beneath the surface of the food. Her breath caught. She has done it, Nolwazi thought. Across the courtyard, Zinhle sat smiling, surrounded by friends, her face glowing with happiness. Come, Sister Zinhle called. I have been waiting. Nolwazi walked toward her, each step heavier than the last. What if she was wrong? What if this was truly just a meal? To accuse MaDlamini in front of everyone, to ruin this moment. Her mind raced. They will hate me, she thought. They will say I am jealous, ungrateful. She looked at Zinhle. Her sister's eyes were full of trust. That trust cut deeper than fear. Nolwazi knelt beside her and placed the bowl in her hands. Zinhle smiled warmly. Thank you, Nolwazi. You always take care of me. The words struck like a blade. Zinhle lifted the food slowly toward her mouth. Around them, laughter continued. No one noticed the storm gathering in Nolwazi's chest. Now her mind screamed, now or never. But her body froze. What if I am wrong? Zinhle's lips drew closer to the food. And then, the memory of MaDlamini's voice echoed in Nolwazi's mind. It does not kill at once. Something inside her snapped. No, Nolwazi shouted. In one swift motion, she struck the bowl from Zinhle's hands. The food scattered across the ground. Silence fell like a heavy curtain. The laughter died. Conversation stopped. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Zinhle stared at her shocked. Nolwazi. What have you done? Baba Themba rose to his feet. Nolwazi, MaDlamini's face darkened instantly. What is the meaning of this? She demanded, her voice sharp as thunder. All eyes turned to Nolwazi. Her chest rose and fell rapidly, but her gaze did not waver. That food, she said, her voice trembling yet firm, is not meant to be eaten. Gasps spread through the crowd. MaDlamini stepped forward, fury blazing behind her calm mask. Have you lost your mind? She snapped. You shame this household. But Nolwazi stood her ground. Her voice grew stronger. It is poisoned. The word hung in the air like a curse. And in that moment, the celebration turned into something else entirely. A battlefield where truth and deception would finally face each other. They say when truth stands alone, it must speak louder than fear, or be buried beneath it. For a long moment, no one moved. The word poisoned hung in the air, heavy and dangerous, as if even the wind feared to carry it further. Then, like a spark in dry grass, chaos erupted. Have you lost your senses, Baba? Themba roared, stepping forward, his voice shaking with anger and disbelief. How dare you accuse your mother in this way? Zinhle's hands trembled as she looked from the spilled food to Nolwazi. Sister, this is not funny, she whispered. Tell them you didn't mean it. But Nolwazi did not look at her. Her eyes were fixed on MaDlamini. I meant every word she said quietly. MaDlamini let out a sharp laugh, though her eyes were cold. You see, she said, turning to the crowd, this is what jealousy does. I show kindness to one child, and the other cannot bear it. Murmurs spread among the villagers. She has always been the quiet one, someone whispered. Maybe she envies her sister, another added. Nolwazi felt the weight of their doubt pressing down on her, but she did not step back. I am not jealous, she said, her voice rising. I am trying to save her from what MaDlamini snapped. From love, from care, from you, Nolwazi replied. The courtyard fell silent again. MaDlamini's smile faded. Be careful, child, she said slowly. You are walking a dangerous path. Nolwazi stepped forward, her heart pounding like a drum. Then let us test it. Baba Themba frowned. Test what the food, Nolwazi said. If I am lying, then I will accept any punishment you give me. But if I am telling the truth. She did not finish the sentence. The implication was clear. A heavy silence followed. The elders who had been watching quietly from the side exchanged glances. Finally, one of them, an old man with a deep-lined face, spoke. There is wisdom in testing what is uncertain, he said. Bring a goat. A young boy ran off and returned moments later, leading a small goat by a rope. The animal bleated softly, unaware of the role it was about to play. Nolwazi's chest tightened. This was it. There would be no turning back. One of the women gathered what remained of the spilled food and placed it before the goat. For a moment, the animal hesitated, then began to eat. All eyes watched. Even the air seemed to grow still. Seconds passed, then a minute. The goat lifted its head, chewing slowly. MaDlamini crossed her arms, a faint smirk returning to her lips. You see, she said. Empty accusations. But before she could finish, the goat staggered. A low murmur rippled through the crowd. The animal's legs trembled. It let out a weak cry, then collapsed onto the ground. Silence. A silence so deep it swallowed every sound. Zinhle gasped, covering her mouth. Baba Themba's eyes widened in shock. The villagers stepped back, fear creeping into their faces. No, someone whispered. Nolwazi closed her eyes briefly, pain and relief washing over her at once. When she opened them, she looked at MaDlamini. The mask was gone. For the first time, fear flickered across MaDlamini's face. This proves nothing, she stammered, her voice no longer steady. Maybe the goat was sick. Enough, Baba, Themba said, his voice low, but filled with something far more dangerous than anger. Disbelief, betrayal. He turned to her slowly. Tell me, he said, each word heavy. What have you done? MaDlamini stepped back, her composure crumbling. Her eyes darted around, searching for escape, for denial, for anything that could save her. But the truth had already spoken, and it had done so without mercy. They say when a lie is exposed, it does not simply fade, it shatters, and its pieces cut everyone it once deceived. The courtyard remained frozen in silence, the fallen goat lying as a witness no one could deny. What had once been a place of laughter now felt heavy with betrayal. Baba Themba stood still, his chest rising and falling slowly, as though he were holding back a storm within him. His eyes, once filled with trust, now searched MaDlamini's face, as if trying to find the woman he thought he knew. Speak, he said at last, his voice low but commanding. Tell us the truth. MaDlamini's lips trembled. For a moment she said nothing. The confident woman who had once ruled the household with quiet control now stood, exposed, her strength slipping away like sand through open fingers. I did what I had to do, she finally whispered. Gasps spread through the crowd. Zinhle staggered back as if struck. Mama, her voice broke. Why? MaDlamini turned to her, and for a brief second, something raw flickered in her eyes, not kindness, not love, but something twisted. Because everything was becoming yours, she snapped, her voice rising. The praise, the attention, the future, everything. Tears streamed down Zinhle's face. I never took anything from you. You didn't have to, MaDlamini cried. You were born with it. That light. That way people look at you. Her voice cracked. Do you know what it is to be invisible in your own home? The villagers shifted uneasily. Some lowered their eyes. Others watched with a mixture of shock and pity. Nolwazi stepped forward, her expression firm but filled with pain. So you chose to kill her, MaDlamini's gaze hardened again. I chose to take back what life denied me. By destroying someone who trusted you, Nolwazi replied. Those words struck deeper than any accusation. MaDlamini faltered. Baba Themba closed his eyes for a moment, as if the weight of it all was too much to bear. When he opened them, they were no longer soft. They say betrayal from a stranger wounds the body, he said slowly. But betrayal from within the home wounds the soul. He turned away from her. I brought you into this house to protect my children, he continued. Instead, you became their greatest danger. MaDlamini fell to her knees. I was desperate, she pleaded. I only wanted a place, a future. You had one, Baba Themba replied, and you poisoned it. The elders stepped forward, their presence, commanding silence once more. The truth has been seen, the oldest among them said, and in our land such actions cannot go without consequence. MaDlamini looked up, fear now fully visible in her eyes. Please, have mercy. But mercy, as the elders often said, walks hand in hand with justice, not ahead of it. You will leave this village before the sun sets, the elder declared. You will not return. From this day forward, you are no longer part of this household. A murmur passed through the crowd. Exile, a punishment worse than chains. MaDlamini's shoulders collapsed. She said nothing more. The fight had left her. Two women helped her to her feet, and without another word, she was led away, her shadow stretching long behind her, as if even the earth refused to hold her. Zinhle sank to the ground, her tears falling freely. I trusted her, she whispered. Nolwazi knelt beside her, pulling her gently into an embrace. And that is not your fault, she said softly. A pure heart does not expect poison. Zinhle clung to her, her voice trembling. You saved me. Nolwazi closed her eyes briefly. No, she said. I only listened when something inside me refused to stay silent. Above them, the wind moved again, carrying away the last echoes of deception. And in its place, something new began to grow. Not just relief, but a bond between sisters, stronger than anything that had tried to break it. They say jealousy is a fire that does not only burn what it touches. It first consumes the one who carries it in silence. After MaDlamini was led away from Kwandovu village, a strange quiet settled over Baba Themba's compound. It was not the heavy silence of fear that had once lived there, but something softer, something like the stillness that follows a storm when the earth begins to breathe again. Life did not return to normal overnight. For many days, Zinhle moved through the compound like a shadow of herself. The same girl who once laughed freely now spoke in softer tones, her eyes more watchful, her smile slower to appear. One evening, as the sun melted into the horizon, Zinhle sat beneath the old baobab tree, the same place where she and Nolwazi had once shared innocent conversations. I keep asking myself, Zinhle said quietly, how I did not see it. Nolwazi sat beside her, her voice calm. Because you were not looking for darkness, she replied. And that is not a weakness. Zinhle looked down at her hands. But it almost cost me my life. Nolwazi placed a gentle hand over hers. They say a person who has never seen danger walks freely, but a person who has faced it walks wisely. Zinhle nodded slowly. I think she whispered, I understand now. Kindness must walk with awareness, or it becomes blindness. Nolwazi allowed herself a small smile. And wisdom must walk with courage, or it becomes silence. The two sisters sat in stillness, their words settling into the roots of the tree beneath them. From that day forward, things began to change. Zinhle remained kind, but no longer unquestioning. She listened more carefully, observed more deeply, and learned that not every smile carries good intentions. Nolwazi, once seen as quiet and distant, became someone the village looked to with respect. Mothers would point her out to their children and say, "That is the girl who spoke when others were afraid." Even Baba Demba changed. He became more present, more attentive, his eyes no longer clouded by easy trust. He had learned, as many do too late, that love must be protected not only from strangers, but sometimes from those who stand closest. And as for MaDlamini, her name faded from the village, carried away like dust on the wind. But her story remained not as a tale of power, but as a warning. A warning that jealousy, when left to grow unchecked, becomes something far more dangerous than anger. It becomes destruction. They say in every village there is a story people whisper about. A story of a girl who trusted too easily, and a sister who saw what others refused to see, and a woman whose heart, consumed by envy, led her to lose everything she once had. Because in the end, truth does not need to shout. It waits. And when the time is right, it reveals itself without mercy. So remember this: not every hand that feeds you wishes you well. Not every smile is a blessing. And sometimes the one who saves you is the one who dares to stand alone when no one else will. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us, where are you watching from?